Okay, we are back from our recess, and we are moving on to our item 5D1. This is Engineering and Public Works. And does anyone need a presentation? So Commissioner Kerner would like to make a motion on 5D1, A and B. We have a motion on 5D1, A and B by Commissioner Kerner. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Marino. And this is a budget transfer of $1,580,000.
My light is on.
Oh, Commissioner Marino, you'd like to be recognized.
Thank you. The reason I actually put my light on is because I had some constituents from the north end of the county that emailed me and called me that they were maintaining the median themselves because it hadn't been done for quite a while. And looking at the presentation and seeing the costs and the fact that we have vendors that don't want to do the work anymore, my question is it feasible to bring this in-house? Or what are our options at this point in time? And, you know, one cutty, I think this says 2 cuts a month. Is that at least we're doing 2 cuts or we're doing 16 cuts? So, you know, it is this is a life safety issue. When you have medians that are, and I apologize, Drew Martin already left, but, you know, love to have a butterfly garden in a median, except it's a life safety issue. If you can't see other cars or you can't see people because the vegetation is so tall, you're going to have a problem. I broke my back in a golf cart accident because the vegetation was so tall that one cart and another cart didn't see each other until they made contact. I don't want to see something more serious than a broken back happen because our medians aren't being maintained properly. So that was just sort of a long-winded question, winding down the road, but can you give us an update? And maybe, like I said, is this something we can bring in-house? I know we have 4 other departments that do something like this, so there you go.
Good afternoon, Commissioner Marino. Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Administrator Baker. Just like the Mayor indicated, this is a request to transfer $1,800,000 from the general fund for landscaping services. And just like you asked, Commissioner Marino, we have in the past year and a half, because of COVID, some other things, some of our existing vendors said, hey, we just cannot perform the service for the cost and because of the equipment. And so we've gone out on emergency services contracts, and now we rebid all these contracts. And looking at the level of service, we used to be at 16 cuts per year. This will be at 24 cuts. And what this will do, allow them to actually maintain it without damaging their equipment. And so we'll be able to actually do it, I think it's twice a month at 24 cuts? Twice a month, and reduce the level of basically equipment damage to our vendors. And so they should be able to maintain it without any issues related to that. But in terms of looking at to bring it in-house, well, we've been looking at also. Our challenges with all the different type of jobs is that it's hard to get people to apply for some of our positions, but we are taking a harder look at that, and we'll present that to the county administrator as the next budget cycle. But this will carry us through for the next several months to the end of the budget year. But this definitely will increase the level of service, but also it'll make it easier for our vendors to maintain those medians more reasonable. We maintain about 150 miles worth of medians throughout the county. So this is basically for 4 contracts spread out throughout the counties in order to provide that service.
So we do have a vendor then that can do this?
Yes, yeah, we have 4 separate contracts. This provide funding for 4 separate contracts. So we rebid this, and that's why the costs are at this different level.
Okay, because the line here says our past annual maintenance contract vendors have chosen not to renew existing contracts.
So we have rebid all those contracts, and so with these new prices, we came back to the county administrator and said, with our existing budget, we cannot basically maintain the level of service.
Okay. So as long as we have a vendor that's willing to do this,
Right.
And I do agree that we do need we do need more cuttings, more mowings.
Yes, we do.
So I appreciate you looking into this because we can't have our residents out there doing something that we're supposed to be doing.
Clearly understand.
Thank you. So I did second the motion.
You did? All right. We have a motion and a second on item 5D1, A and B. Any other comments? Don't see any. All in favor? All opposed? That motion carries 6-0. And note for the record that Commissioner Bernard is absent. All right, moving on to item 5E1, the Office of Community Revitalization.
Is that over? Good afternoon.
Good
Mayor,
afternoon,
Vice
Mr.
Mayor,
Houston.
County Administrator Baker. We're so very happy to be here today to talk to you about probably one of the best projects that we have to bring on engagement and connections with our CCRT communities, and that being the NEAP project. As you know, this project is for reimbursing grants in the amount of $10,000 to communities, to individuals, to organizations, for the purpose of promoting a better communities, for the purpose of creating, okay, thank you. We're getting our teamwork set up here. For the purpose of building a better community. And so what we're gonna do is go through our presentation and wait for any questions thereafter.
And Mayor, really quickly, if I could, for our two new commissioners, Houston Tate, our Office of Community Revitalization Director, and Ruth Mogolinsky and Crystal Matthews with the office as well.
Okay.
I know what else is done.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
And Richard Center from the County Attorney's Office.
Okay, okay. So the first being, this is a maximum award of $10,000, as I stated earlier. These projects, and we're talking now about the new NEAT grant. So we're bringing this to you now, changes from the former NEAT grant. The projects are to be located in designated CCRT communities and the Lake region. A letter of intent is due on April the 4th. However, is that 6th? However, I must say that we are due to bring the assessment to our county administrator, so that date is preliminary based on us having the CCRT assessment, which is examining all of our 84 communities, taking a look at where they are now, taking a look at what communities should come off, taking a look at communities that could be added on. So that hopefully that project will come forth, and then we will then update these dates for you at that time. The same being the application, that will, same thing, that will change based on the CCRT assessment. Next slide. Okay, now, we're gonna go through the most frequently asked questions about the project, because that's the key to understanding. I must say also that when you're looking at the NEAT grant, you're looking at the greatest needs in communities with limited resources. That's the purpose. We're not looking at communities that are better off. We're looking at communities that are require limited resources. And we look at the fact that the $10,000 that you are investing into this community, it is then returned 10 times. When you look at, number one, the grant requires the community to match that $10,000 with $10,000. So in the form of, it could be a number of reasons. It could be grants, it could be funding, but it also could be volunteering hours. So they have to give us that schedule of exactly how they're going to match that, and we follow that throughout the process of the grant. So as we go through here, we see that who is eligible to apply for a NEAT grant. The applicants may be an individual, as I mentioned, or an informal or formal community group that serves a CCRT community. Formal community groups include an active neighborhood association, organization, or homeowners associations. Formal community groups must be a Florida not-for-profit organization in good standings. Many come to us that they are 501c3. Of course, that requires them to be in good standing to be able to say that. Are mandatory associations or gated communities eligible? Mandatory associations and gated communities are only eligible if they're located within a designated CCRT area. Can I apply for more than one grant? Well, obviously, these grants are competitive. We have $150,000 at our disposal. So they are competitive, but the answer is yes. You know, a community, in fact, there are some communities that are doing just an excellent job being able to present projects that define a definite, tangible improvement to the community. And they got it in terms of what do I do now? What do I do next year? What new grants? And they have this vision of where they're going. So communities like that, you're happy that they're able to do several communities within their, several projects within their communities. Can I apply for more, can payments be made directly to vendors? The answer is yes. The county may make payments directly to the vendors, issuing the invoice, or may purchase items on the behalf of the awardee from registered county vendors. Grantees also may have the option to purchase items requested and reimbursed. Then we go into what are the eligible projects. These are all categories. I mean, there are other things that can fit into this category. So we do our best in terms of defining what we believe projects matches this category. So there certainly may be other things that we're not including, but it just shares with you a category. Neighborhood beautification, you have your cleanups, you have your landscaping, you have your pressure washing, exterior painting, you have your murals. We painted beautiful murals on many high schools, or middle schools, I should say, and we did one at our Sandcastle Community Center. So we've been able to do some really beautiful murals through this project. Neighborhood identification, community banners. There are many communities that have designated themselves by having banners hung. We have unified addresses, which is critical in certain areas. I know in the Glades in particular, if you don't have an address, fire rescue can't come to your house. And so we've done a lot of this kind of projects to make sure that fire rescue and PBSO can get to our various locations correctly. Uniform mailboxes, that's another very simple thing, but many communities don't have mailboxes, and so we've been able to have a uniform way. So as we do these projects, we're looking at how do we make a CCRT community improve its aesthetics. So we start looking at how do we make things look similar like in other communities, and that works out very well. We've had one community actually put lights on the mailboxes, which was very unique. Unified trash cans. Obviously, if you don't have trash cans in the community, how do you maintain this problem with trash on the floor? So unifying trash cans, and they actually have their logo, and it really gives our unincorporated CCRT community the same look, here again, as other communities as such. Neighborhood organizing and stability. We actually provide funding so that a community can go after their 501c3, because what we're trying to do is to promote communities to go after their own grant funding. And that's the key to being able to make certain that they are 501c3, because this whole sustainability is we give you the tools so that you in turn can not necessarily have to come to us for the same similar things. Community organizing events, we have, well, now we don't. I mean, prior, COVID has really changed the landscape. Right now, most of our meetings are virtual, whether it's our CCRT communities or the community meetings themselves, all done virtually. Neighborhood outreach and capacity building, bulletin boards, yard signs. These are great things that even the communities themselves are talking to themselves through this bulletin board. So it's a place where people can meet, People can connect to each other, but most importantly, it allows communities to sort of get a feel for what's happening throughout the community. Community newsletter, well, right now it's a difficult time to get people to write. We are trying to constantly ask communities to look at, when they look at advocating for themselves, put that in the form of a newsletter so that you can talk to the community in a way that you've identified some of your priorities, look at some of the things that you have consensus of. A very good tool, but I don't think, to my knowledge, we've been able to, that's a very difficult task to do for someone to do monthly or whatever. Next would be public safety and crime prevention. Crime Watch projects, I can't say enough about PBSO. They just surprises me with what they've been able to do in terms of providing us, whether it's our food. We provide food every Friday. They're there to help us unload the trucks. They're there to do all these things. So that public safety issue has been very important as they tell us and share with us things that we can do to improve on crime. Community gardens. We have several gardens throughout the county. Some of them is amazing to the extent of how much work they've been able to do to keep a large garden productive. The Butterfly Gardens goes along with the community gardens. A cookbook obviously has been a great thing because you share in a community the cultural differences between communities. It's a way in which communities can bring up their own recipe. Next, neighborhood green projects. And I'm just going to go through these. Okay, I got 3 minutes. Let me get through.
Just go through the
Yeah, so these are the categories. And then what we have is, the most important thing I need to share is those projects that are eligible projects. They have to have a clear public benefit. They must, the key thing is a lot of communities don't know you've got permits to pay, that you have to pay for. So that is a requirement of the residents, and making sure that they have consensus either from a city or from the county or a private owner. I think as we go to, eligible, yeah, well, we've talked that. And the samples, you can take the pictures is worth 1,000 words. I tell you, one day we'd love to do a tour of our communities to let you see what and how we've gone from a point. Some of these communities have improved greatly because of the CCRT project. So the first one is Lantana, playground equipment, community gardens is next. And I won't go through each and every one. I'm just sharing with you that when you look at these projects, you're looking at projects that have made a major difference in terms of communities that at one time reflected on this weakness, that has now taken their strength and has worked together for their future. So at this point, is there?
I just wanted to add a comment, just to inform the two, new commissioners. We use a lot of abbreviations in the county. We use a lot of abbreviations in the county. So CCRT stands for the Countywide Community Revitalization Team, and our office basically has under its purview 84 neighborhoods, residential neighborhoods within an unincorporated county, which are in need of assistance. And this program really is intended to provide funding to assist these communities to partner with the county and to connect with their neighbors to do neighborhood improvement efforts. And the item before you today is requesting the approval of all the grants that are being recommended for funding, and also get your approval for some critical revisions that are needed for the for next year program.
And if I can, I'll just mention the proposed program revisions. One, eligible areas, unincorporated Palm Beach County and the Lake Region areas is a major change to this. Two, eligible applicants, informal or formal communities, not-for-profit, and non-mandatory homeowners associations. Three, we talked about the eligible and the font on this is very small. I don't know if you've seen this. The eligible project categories I've already talked about. We've mentioned which they are. And then the last is the grant ranking. We have first, is that completion of application? Is that, okay, this is
Yeah.
much better.
So we
Yeah,
added these
Yes.
projects here at the bottom.
So we added other projects, little free libraries, minor playground equipment, benches, gazebos, et cetera, et cetera. The key thing is that this is now we want our CCRT communities to have the options of recommending to us what they want from the future. So there may be some things that as we move forward here again, that will embellish those categories because we are really watching a trained community that understands what it is best for them. And so now we're taking the time to listen to them and to be able to move forward accordingly. Is there anything else?
And Mayor, just quickly, just to emphasize what Houston touched on, that's the third part, C, in the motion that's included there. And we just want to take the opportunity with these changes, saw some things that needed to be tightened up by way of ability and eligibility. That's the effort here. So you'll see some of these modifications, and with the board direction vote today, we would be implementing those for next year's NEAT program. So aside from that, that concludes what we have, and we're available for any questions.
Commissioner Marino, you recognize.
Thank you. Thank you. I have several of these communities in the north end of the county and Houston and all. Thank you very much, actually, for the Thanksgiving food drive, because at the Edna W. Runner Tutorial Center, we had 5 different CCRT communities that picked up turkeys and all the fixings. And our thank you goes to our Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office, too, for actually accommodating one of those neighborhoods that didn't have a way of getting the food to them. So I just want to say this is such an important program, and I'm glad you tightened up the qualifications for it, because, I mean, I know previously anybody could have asked for the money, but we really have communities that are very much in need, and these dollars really should go to those communities. So I do appreciate you tweaking the definition of that. I do want to find out, though, if it's possible, because I know the Limestone Creek area, because of gentrification, several of the roads would not qualify, but the rest of the area would. Are we able to do a carve-out to protect those areas that are, a rising tide lifts all boats, but in this community, 2 streets doesn't lift the rest of the other streets.
Sure.
And I want to make sure that we can protect those other other streets.
As Mr. Tate briefly mentioned, we would like to have the opportunity before this grant program is open for next year to bring to the board the assessment that has been completed, or I better call it reassessment of the CCRT neighborhood. We have a couple of situations, kind of like Limestone Creek, in which, there are homes that have come into the community, which has increased the value, the property values, the income of the properties, and certainly a few of those areas we have to kind of look at the boundaries and see if they could, kind of redefine those boundaries so the areas that we keep as a CCRT area still meet the minimum requirements for designation.
Because you've got 2 communities there. You've got $450,000 homes on one side.
Correct.
And then you have some lots that are 45 feet. There's nothing you can even do with the property. So we're in the process of doing that right now, and we'll come back to you with that.
Thank you. That concerns me. I don't want those that are in need to lose because a developer came in and bought a whole street and those houses that you're talking about right behind the tutorial center, one of those houses went for $1 million.
Right.
In a community where, the average house is probably $200,000. So I don't want the rest of the community to lose out.
And at the same time, without giving names, because we have to bring the assessment, there are communities that are maybe or in the coastal waterway, or that they are really shouldn't be in our CCRT list for now.
Right.
So we wanted to make sure that we make the necessary corrections, so we only keep on the list those areas that are of greatest need and that they are supposed to be under our office purview.
Thank you. And I want to also give a shout out to the Lessing Group because they were the
Yes.
ones that donated all the
Yeah,
food for the
that-
food
that's
drive.
correct.
So
That is correct.
I appreciate everyone's efforts and thank
And
you
they donated. They donated volunteers.
Yeah,
So
we
they
had
did both.
volunteers at the center
Gave us
also.
money and helped us with the project.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Kerner, you recognize.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. Thank you for your passion. Thank you for the good work that you do. I'd like to make a motion on 5E1, A, B, and C for passage.
Thank you.
So I have a motion by Commissioner Kerner, a second by Commissioner Marino. Are there any other comments or questions? Seeing none, just before I take the vote, I just want to thank you all for the work that you do in community revitalization. I know I lost some of my CCRT neighborhoods with the redistricting,
Yes, you did.
but they'll always be in my heart. The people are good people that live in those communities, and they make up a very important part of the fabric of all of Palm Beach County, which is a place that everybody needs to feel welcomed and respected in, and I think your office does a tremendous job in making that happen, so.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you very much.
So with that, all those in favor? Opposed? That motion carries 6-0 with Commissioner Bernard off the dais, or not in the building at this point. All right, moving on. Item 5F1, Office of Management and Financial Management and Budget, and this will be direction on our strategic priorities.
Thank you.
They're so odd. Yeah,
We had this presentation last time. So, Mayor, if I may speak.
yes, you certainly may,
there-
sir.
We were presented this last time, and my only concern was that I wanted an opportunity for the two commissioners that just joined the board to have an opportunity to digest and understand our strategic priorities. And so, I don't think we need to go through this entire presentation again, but if there were some comments or discussion points that the commissioners wanted to have, I'd be happy to participate in that. Otherwise, my perspective is consistent on our priorities, so.
I appreciate that, and thank you, Commissioner Kerner, and I think, so I see Commissioner Marino has her light on, and we'll start hearing comments.
Well, actually, my comment is this. I think because we have the two new commissioners, and this is a lot to digest, I think we stay on this course for this year, and it gives the commissioners an opportunity to see how we work, and then if need be, we realign our strategic priorities next year. We're already starting to work at this, and it's a lot to digest. I mean, when you have a 1,300-page budget, it's a lot to digest. So I would defer to our new commissioners, but I think for this year, I think it would behoove us to stay on this course, and they can come up with their strategic plans as we work through the year. And that is my opinion, and I would welcome both of you to weigh in.
All right. Commissioner Baxter, you're recognized.
Thank you. And I do appreciate that because it is quite, but I feel without knowing an entire budget process of 1,300 pages, we came into office with some priorities in mind. And one of my top priorities was the infrastructure. Roads are a big issue in our western communities, whether you're talking about Belglade, Pahokee, South Bay, you're talking about even the acreage, Loxahatchee, which is all unincorporated. There's huge issues out there. And I asked last time, in this course, because infrastructure is up there, does it benefit us at all to move it anywhere else because it's already there?
These are not in any order. They're not. There's not a priority of these. They're all strategic priorities for us. Commissioner Woodward, you're recognized.
Thank you. And thank you for the time to come back to this. I did have a staff meeting for agenda review where this was brought up, and a couple of the questions that I have are not really budget related. There weren't legislative issues, so I'm happy for us to stick with what's already here, and then I will work with the legislative team for what were my priorities. So thank you.
All right. So hearing sort of what I've heard from the board, it sounds like we are agreeing to continue our strategic priorities that we've had in place over the last few years, and we'll continue that going forward this next year. And potentially, you know, there's opportunity, obviously, throughout the year to continue to review these and refine them and make changes as the world changes around us. So. All right, so with that, does anyone have any other questions or direction for staff? I don't see any, so I think we're good to move forward. Thank you so much for coming back. All right. Let's see, I think we are now moved on to, board appointments. So that'd be item number 6. And let's start, since we have more commissioners on this side of the room, we'll start with Commissioner Baxter. Do you have any board appointments today?
Not at this time.
Okay. Commissioner Kerner.
No, Mayor.
Vice Mayor Sachs.
None at this time.
Commissioner Marino.
None at this time, thank you.
Commissioner Woodward.
None at this time.
Okay, I don't have any either, so.
Well, I want to clarify then that I have none at this time, because I just said no. I want to reserve my right for future appointments.
Did you want to modify your statement, or do you want to?
Not at this time.
Move to amend it?
Not at this time.
Not at this time, very good.
All right. Moving on to item number 7A1, administration comments. Madam Administrator.
I just have the board directives for receive and file. Do want to bring you up to speed on one in particular, and that was staff was given direction to work with the former commissioner on regarding the Women's Summit. We're still working with the Commission on the Status of Women. They will be meeting sometime next month, and then they are kind of looking at what they really want to do. So as soon as we get some direction from them, we will be bringing this issue back to you. Further, we're supposed to be bringing, and will be bringing on January 10th, a resolution reestablishing the Commission on Women.
Okay. And Commissioner Marino?
Well, I guess my question was, it was due to sunset, correct?
Correct. It is
Right.
due to sunset.
So we can have this discussion next month.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. All right. Anything else, Madam Administrator?
I do want to wish one of our employees that's retiring at the end of the week. She's been with the county overall 35 years, 10 years with the clerk of courts, 5 years with the sheriff, and 20 years with us. And her name is Sherette Major. She has been outstanding as far as our grants are concerned. She was trained by the clerk, then went to, again, the sheriff, and then came to us. And we have been beneficiaries of her knowledge for these last 20 years on our side of the table, and I wish her nothing but the best in retirement land.
Oh, very thoughtful. Thank you. Thanks for sharing those kind words. All right. County Attorney, do you have
A
any
motion to receive and file 7A1.
Oh, sorry. Yep. Thank you. We have a motion to receive and file, and by Commissioner Kerner, seconded by Commissioner Marino. All in favor, all opposed. That motion carries 6-0.
And Mayor, on that point, if I may, on 7A1, you know, I would be open to not requiring the administrator to have to receive and file these reports every commission meeting. I wouldn't require it at all, but maybe at least just once a month or something. Just the first, it's not, okay, I apologize. But if there was the will to not have to do it, but you just update us when you have something to tell us, I would be good with that as well, but I don't want to upset the apple cart.
Is there a preference on your? Oh, okay. Okay. All right.
Feels more often.
I don't know what to say to that, but I'll leave it alone. County Attorney, we have no comments. All right. Next, we have commissioner comments. So we will start on the far end of the dais, and Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you, and hopefully I didn't upset too much with asking for a workshop on the Ag Reserve. I know you all have done it before, and I do appreciate indulging a new commissioner and learning more about this before we make any further decisions. So thank you for that, and have a good week.
Well, thank you. All right, and Commissioner Marino.
Thank you. During my agenda review, I was talking about the pre-application meetings that petitioners have. And I know that we used to do a mandatory pre-app meeting where petitioners would come in and all the departments would meet together. This way, police and fire could be there, and code enforcement and building, and they would all review the application at once and can give their comments. Is that an accurate portrayal of what used to happen?
Yes, it still happens, except it's voluntary. I'm not sure, and I'm looking at Patrick, where is he? Whether the sheriff is there, because he's not under my purview. But all of the departments signing off under my purview are at those meetings, and there's still pre-application meetings, and they can still be had. They're just voluntary. They're not mandatory anymore.
Would I don't want to have more government, but in a sense, we'd end up having less if everybody was all at the table at the same time to start. Then those that were bringing in projects would have direction immediately. Now they have to bring in a project. They can't have us tell them what to do, but they can have us say to them, "This doesn't work. This doesn't work. This is a fire safety issue, this is a public safety issue," type of thing. And they're all in the room together so that if they're getting comments piecemeal, sometimes planning and zoning might say one thing, they go to building and building says another, and they said, well, planning and zoning said this. If they're all in the room together, they all hear the same information. And I think it would actually speed up the process, speed up going through the process in the future. So I don't want to give staff more work, but in essence, this actually cuts your work down in the future. So what would our process be now? What should we think about doing?
Give me an opportunity to talk with staff and industry, and then craft something to bring back to you on the suggestion. We currently, if they want to voluntarily come in and sit down with us on a pre-app, we provide that service. I will talk to get input from them on mandatory. Maybe we only do it for certain types of projects, or, that kind of thing, and let others be voluntary. But please give me the opportunity to go speak with staff along with industry and then report back out to the board.
I see this as something that would speed up the going through the process.
I agree with you.
Boy, that sounds redundant. But I know that if everybody's all on the same page at the same time, and questions get answered more quickly. So I don't want this to be a burden, but I do think that going forward it would speed up the process. And I know none of us want to add bureaucracy, and I don't think this is actually adding it. And maybe it's tailored to people that have never come through the process before, or people that are from out of town, or there might be a trigger point that brings this in. Thank you. With that, I have no more comments.
Thank you, Commissioner Marino. Moving across to the other side of the dais, Commissioner Baxter, your comments?
I have two. I asked the question earlier and didn't get an answer, or ask if staff could look into what it would take to add merging lanes onto the 441 extension. We have a huge traffic problem at stop signs. And just wanted to start that process. So without objection. Not lights, no. So we have, no, please no.
You should be able to have, and I hope, you should be able to reach out directly to staff and ask them to come in
And I asked the question today if I needed to bring it up in comments to anyone new. So this was me, just in case it needed to be brought up.
I think if you I think if you just, it would probably best serve if you just meet directly with staff, and then if there was something else that you needed the board to help navigate or something, and you can bring that up. And I think Commissioner Sachs has a comment as well.
I think it's, what I would suggest is go through our county staff and then reach directly to Mr. O'Reilly, who's the FDOT representative for this area. And I would also recommend that you go down and visit him in his Broward office, his Fort Lauderdale office, so that, because that's his jurisdiction,
Okay.
is 441. And I know that the secretary of the FDOT in Tallahassee is always bringing that area up. So this is a time for you to do that. Work through county staff. Once through county staff, then reach out directly to the FDOT. That's the jurisdictional head of 441 that you're concerned with. If you need any help, you know where to find me.
So when I've asked things, it's always at the direction of the board in the past. So this is why I'm bringing it up now. If there is some policy that I could be provided on clarification of what can go on my own to staff and people without.
Maybe, is that something, maybe you guys can meet with Commissioner Baxter on, and although I want to say, in listening to Commissioner Sachs's comment, the other thing I would say is, if in fact, sometimes what will happen is you'll come back and you'll need maybe like a letter on behalf of the board to FDOT, making a request or something like that. But it sounds like if you all can spend some time with, so that she's clear on, as much as we can be clear on anything.
Right. There are certain things under our jurisdiction, under my responsibility, I can handle directing staff, et cetera, as long as the board has already set policy on that particular issue. Other issues, to get further direction, I
Sure.
would need commissioners to bring that to the board.
And that's what I'm asking for, that clarification of when do I need to bring things to the board and what can be kind of taken, because resounding, I keep hearing, I need direction from the board.
Yeah, go ahead.
Based on our charter, and I'm going to look at legal on this, but I need, in order to give me new directions that's not been addressed by the board, no policy set by the board, I need 4 commissioners or more to give us staff direction to do something. Because I've got 7 of you, and sometimes you have all different.
And is there already a policy regarding this issue?
I'm sorry.
To add, or potentially want to start looking at what the process would be to add merging lanes into an area of traffic congestion?
That is something that we can talk to you, but we can start the process and start to look at it, because we're already looking at the 5-year road program.
Okay.
We're already doing that. So it is not another issue. But if it is to direct us to do that, then yes, the board would need to give us some direction on that if it's not already a part of the adopted policy. I don't have a problem working, we are open to working with the commissioners on these issues. But if it gets to a point where I'm a little uncomfortable making that choice, because it's really the board's policy, then I will ask that certain things come back to the board.
So for clarity, you don't need direction from the board? Okay.
We're not talking, no. I'm looking at legal, because I need to make sure I'm understanding. State Road 7 is FDOT, it's the state road. We can work with you on that. We can talk to the commissioner. When you talk about adding additional lanes onto there, that's a call that's going to be made by FDOT, not us. And what we usually do is we work with FDOT, not come up with the plan and then tell them what we want done. We work with them to make sure that we don't get on the opposite side of them. And so let us talk to you a little bit more, make sure we're clear on it. And then if we're not, and I think it's something the board needs to direct us on, I can bring that back to the board, or we can bring that back to the board at the December 20th meeting, which we will have our 5-year road program being discussed.
Which
on
was
that
one of my
meeting.
concerns, because I won't be here on December 20th. So I just wanted to also make everyone aware.
Okay.
I need a little family time that week, and we'll be
If-
back.
If it is okay with the board, we will continue to work with Commissioner Baxter. If it's something that I think needs to come back to the board for further direction, then we'll bring it back to the board for further direction.
Thank you.
Is that okay?
All right. Commissioner Marino, you recognize, then Commissioner Sacks.
Thank you. And Commissioner Baxter, I'll give you an example, so maybe this can help you.
Please.
Central Boulevard in Palm Beach Gardens is not a lit road. So there was a discussion about lighting the road. But at the end of the day, FDOT, because that's right where 95 is going to have an interchange, FDOT are the ones that said to us, you can't do that because we're going to go in and tear everything up anyway. So I guess procedure would be to figure out, one, who is the actual governing entity, and in this case, FDOT, and start there. And then if we need to change policy, that's when the board would enter into the equation. Does that help?
I've asked a couple times prior to this meeting and haven't had a clear answer, so thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Commissioner Sacks, you recognize.
Commissioner Baxter, one of the greatest tools that we have here is called staff. I agree. Just have your staff, people come talk to my people or talk to Kerner's people, and it helps out a lot. I just started here not too long ago either. And a lot of these things are a little confounding, not just confusing, but confounding. You don't want to do the wrong thing. But usually staff will ask another staff person, and I've gotten a lot of help from my staff. I'm talking about the staff in my office. And they kind of give me direction on things that I can and can't do. Usually they give me direction on things I can't do. But the most important thing is work with all of us and we'll help you out. We're in the neighborhood. Okay, thanks.
Any further comments, Commissioner Baxter? All right. Okay, moving on. Commissioner Kerner? No comments. Commissioner or Vice Mayor Sacks?
Thank you. On behalf of District 2, I'd like to ask for a motion for 2 off-site proclamations. The first proclamation will recognize the 100th anniversary of the birth of His Holiness Pramukha Swami Maharaja, the spiritual leader of the BAPS Swaminarayan Sanstha.
Say that 3 times fast.
So, that being said, if I could have, there's 2 of them. Should I do them both at the same time?
At the same time.
Okay. And the second one doesn't have that much to do with the first, but it is an off-site proclamation declaring December 10th, 2022 as Okalili Nature Center Day. So, thank you. If I could have a second. And
We have a motion and a second by Commissioner Sacks for 2 off-site proclamations. All those in favor, all those opposed, let that show. That motion carries unanimously 6-0.
Thank you. And I have one other little, thank you very much, statement is that picking up on having 2 new commissioners and also having those of us who've been here a while, we're going to have a party. Going to have a party at the South County office. And there are 3 commissioners who share that area. Besides myself, I have Commissioner Woodward and Commissioner Bernard. So, and I have a new staff member there, Ed Souls, a great guy. So we would like to invite everybody, your staff, everybody who would like to, come on over. It's on December 15th at 3 to 6. From 3 to 6, have light refreshments, and I look forward to hosting everybody there. You should have received an invitation by email, and you're more than welcome to bring a guest. It's sort of an open house, and it kind of shows off also Commissioner Woodward's office there. And it's going to be a lot of fun. And a little levity at this time of year is always good. So I look forward to seeing all of you there at that time. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, and I just first want to thank our staff for excellent work today. I want to thank my fellow board members. You all hang in there. Last few meetings have been a bit on the longer side, but we've got a lot of work done, so I appreciate that. I've got a couple of announcements. One is to let everybody know on December 10th, we just passed a proclamation, but we're going to be having the Okehele Nature Center Day. That marks the 30th anniversary of Okehele Nature Center, providing opportunities for healthy, happy living through award-winning facilities, inclusive experiences, and environmental stewardship. And it's our oldest nature center in Palm Beach County. So great place. It's a lot of fun for families and individuals. It's a really nice event. And a couple other things. Last night, I was proud to be with our county administrator and assistant county administrator, Bon Laren, and Commissioner Marino. We went to the Lou Graza Kicking Awards ceremony. If you don't know, it's a big deal, and football's a big deal here in Palm Beach County. I'm sure most people knew that, but there were recognitions of some of our local high school athletes that were made this year. So just want to acknowledge Place Kicker of the Year was Jake Weinberg from American Heritage. The Team of the Year was Cardinal Newman. The Player of the Year was DJ Holmes, who goes to Pahokee High School. And the Coach of the Year is Kevin Thompson from Palm Beach Central High School. So congratulations to all the students and the teams for your great efforts. And then lastly, this past last week, some of us ventured up to St. Petersburg for the Florida Association of Counties Conference, and would like to also acknowledge, though, that one of the photos in the annual Florida Association of Counties calendar, have to say January, so that means we're number 1 in the year. It was a photo taken by Discovery of the Palm Beaches, and obviously a picture of some of our local flora and fauna here in Palm Beach County. So congratulations to Discover, and also congratulations to Palm Beach County, because we were the first picture of the calendar year. So with that, if there's nothing else for the good of the order, I will call this meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.